Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How are we? Good morning, Ivy.
Happy Halloween.
Morning.
How was the meeting with the girl from Arizona? You're on mute. You're on
Good
mute.
morning, everyone.
Good morning, Lillian. Ivy, how was it with Denise?
Great. Loved her. We met for 3 hours. We just went on and on and on about everything. And she's great. Loved her.
So she came to my pickleball event at R4 this year, and we stayed in touch. And as an Arizona agent, I was like, well, either going to move to us over there or you're going to move to us in Texas. So when she moved to Dallas, she's like, I got to check out your spot. So I said, schedule with Ivy, 3 hours. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, she was great. We we just really hit it off. Have a lot in common.
Well, hopefully we get her and not Mark or Chris.
Yeah, she's still doing her classes for, but sounds like she's got a lot of got a lot of experience.
Can
So
I? Who
I
she?
think, I think she'll be great.
Her name's Denise. Good morning, Howard.
Hi. Good morning.
Denise Nanny, Tucson.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Abe. Good morning,
And
Karma.
did you say Denise Nanny?
Yes,
Okay. Is she's moving?
she's in Dallas.
She actually lives in McKinney.
Oh yeah. Well, that's right.
She was-
That's Chris.
She was on the leadership team for RRC, the Iowa State president.
Yes, she likes to be involved. She and I have a lot in common. So
Yeah, she's a.
That's a very big move for her. Or her husband. I'm sure they're moving for her husband's job.
that's correct. It is.
Yeah.
Well, so glad you know her. That's great. Great.
That's why I do these events at R4 and luxury and different things to attract these relationships and then build them. And then these opportunities come because people move from state to state and they love to stay with the brand. And then we attract it and then we close it.
It's great.
So good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We have,
Wilson, you're looking a little pale this morning.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, Wilson. Well, happy Halloween to everybody. Do we have any of our mortgage lenders on yet? Wanted to see. I think rates are pretty stable. Anybody have any crazy good success stories while we're waiting for the rest of the group to come on? Nobody?
I just closed. I'm under contract for a house, a condo that I've had on the market for 8 months. It's very, very, very challenging unit because it had a high HOA. But I'm doing this deal with one of your agents, Marco Mello, in South Florida, and since he's Brazilian, we're keeping him in the deal so he could speak Portuguese to the sellers and help me out. And really, really nice to work together with one of our agents in South Florida here in Siesta Key, because the teamwork has been amazing, and it's just another example of how important it is to build relationships within this group we have. The select family, there's so much opportunity if each person on this call gets to know everybody else on the call, off the call. This is a constant possibility. You have people in so many different states here. You guys got to build rapport so you guys really know each other.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, David.
Well,
And that kind of-
I have I guess the success story for my son with your 10-10 rule. I was selling my son a house. It was over market, my opinion, by 200,000. So we put in an offer. The house needed a lot of work, and the seller was a commercial agent in New York, and he was hardball, and he wouldn't give. So I appealed to the agent, and the house had been on the market for like 45 days. So I gave her the 10-10 ruling, and I said, you really need to talk to your seller about the 10-10. You've probably had 10 showings, but no contract. And you probably haven't received any other offers. So I gave her the whole background on the 10-10. She talked to the seller, and the seller caved. So my son was able to get the house. So I think that's a success story.
Fantastic. So Ivy, first of all, thank you for listening. Okay, and I'm going to expand on that just for a moment. And when you present the 10-10-0, okay, and it overlays nicely into our discussion today about building rapport and trust, right? What I recommend you don't do is don't have a handout saying if it's on for 10 days and then if you have 10 showings and no, because that's just going to go in the trash. What you want to do is you want to say, hey, Ivy, do you have a pen? You know, here at Remax Premier, I want to make sure that we protect every dollar of equity and maximize the value of your home. Is that okay? And everybody says yes. And I'm going to say the way that we ensure that, Ivy, is can you just write this down? We call it the 10-10-0. And the first 10 you need to write down is we have 10 days with no showings. And that's indicative of a problem. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, we want to get ahead of a problem. And that means that we need to adjust the price between 5 and 7%. And you watch to make sure they write it down. And then the second 10, Ivy, is if we've had 10 showings and no offers, that is indicative of a 3 to 5% mispricing. And we find we want to get ahead of that and adjust the price between 3 and 5%. And the homeowner needs to write that down because that means they're paying attention to it. Okay, and that's how we preserve the value of the home. Hang on.
How we doing?
So we,
Sorry, you have to unmute yourself. So can anybody here see the significance of having them write it down versus giving them a piece of paper? How about you, Ivy? Oh, you gotta hit the unmute button. But
I do. I have to write everything down. I take notes the whole time through this because it ingrains it in my brain and I don't forget it.
yep. And if I say that to somebody when we're launching a listing, is that offensive the way I present that in anybody's opinion? Right? And do you get the sense that, I'm building trust because I'm telling them that I want to protect the value of their home, right? And that's true. So that's part of the rapport building process. And who's always in charge of a conversation? Does anybody remember this from our prior sessions?
Whoever asked the questions.
Yeah, who's asking the questions in charge, right? We think that, traditional training says, Lisa, I go there and I share with them all my wisdom, and then I say, do you have any questions? Right? What we've just done in that instance is we've surrendered control, right? I mean, isn't that what the traditionalists have taught us in the business, Lisa, right? You go and you present your opinion of value, you tell them how you're going to market it, all those wonderful things. And then when you're done, any questions?
Yes, I'm guilty of that.
So what we need to do is we need to reframe it. And questions build rapport, right? People like to hear themselves talk. So what are some of the questions that you're asking on this group, whether it's with a buyer or a seller? Come on, you go out to meet a seller is there such a place called Parkland Bay?
Yes, there is.
Okay, so you go out to Parkland Bay. I'm sure you'd like to have a nice listing there, right? And you're invited into their house. What questions are you asking?
What is your reason for selling?
Okay. What else?
Where are you planning on moving to?
Okay.
What are the 3 most important things about the sale process? Is it price? Is it time? Is it not having stress?
Yep. And would it be also fair, Lisa, to say have you sold the house with a real estate broker previously?
Yes, that would be a good idea. And if so, you can also ask them what went well and what could have gone better, so you know how to be towards them.
Right. Now, 25 years ago, I would have felt awkward asking that question, right? But now it's natural. So Lisa, have you sold the house with a real estate agent before? Can you share with me how was that experience? Because I might have been, 25 years ago, I might have been afraid that Lisa's going to say, "Oh, well, I bought my house from Nancy at Coldwell Banker. Maybe I should be working with No, 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 no. If you're in the living room, that doesn't matter, right? So tell me what was good about that experience and what could have been improved, right? How often do you want me to communicate feedback to you, right? I even had uh, somebody on a podcast, which I'm not a huge fan of this, but some of you can pull this off better than me. Can be Lisa. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being I'm so honest that it hurts. How honest do you want me to be? Everybody's going to say a 10 or 11, right?
Yes.
So now you have permission to give negative feedback, right? I personally, those words aren't mine, but if you can deliver that and say, hey, throughout the process, if there's bad news, on a scale of 1 to 10, how honest do you want me to be, right? Because I would always be like, I'm going to be honest anyway, but that kind of just opens the door for direct um, feedback on that loop, right? Where you're not part of the process. And I don't know, is Beth Astif on the call now? Maybe she's not, but yesterday she introduced me in our Dr. Phillips' office to
I'm on, Rob. Sorry, I couldn't unmute fast enough.
So we had a great conversation, with a candidate for coming to join the company, and asking the questions was what really engaged her into the process, right?
Right.
And what's the biggest challenge for her, right? And like many of our agents and even our future agents, I'm going to be positive and say our future agents suffer from this, is unrealistic sellers, right? And we had a conversation about, do you think that you have the market cornered on unrealistic sellers? The answer was no, right? And is it that the seller's unrealistic, or we haven't crafted a communication strategy to get them to take the right action? And I think that was kind of self-evident. And I talked to her about the power of three, right? And how, you know, um, uh, Chet Holmes, who wrote the book The Ultimate Sales Machine, really, it's a good book for certain techniques that I learned. But one of the things that he said was, when he was in college waiting tables and at a nice restaurant, if there was a $20 bottle of wine, a $45 bottle of wine, and a $100 bottle of wine, where do you think 90% of the people ordered if there were only three?
The middle one.
They ordered the middle one, right? Because they didn't want to be cheap on the date and they didn't want to break the bank. So they played the safe bet. And when I read that, Beth, it completely resonated with me. And I said to myself, there's three opportunities, there's three options when we talk to a client about introducing their property or launching their property to the market. Traditionally, Beth, you or Lisa or anybody, you go out there and you have evidence on what you believe the property to be worth, right?
Mhm.
That's option one. Option two is the seller's belief, or their puffing, which is what, normally higher or lower?
Higher.
Higher, often significantly higher, right?
Yep.
So if the house is worth 600 and the seller thinks it's worth 800, where do you think most agents come back with that listing at, Beth?
700.
You're so perfect with the math. And is 700 a competitive price for a $600,000 listing?
No.
No, right. So I hope this resonates. So what I wanted to do from the Chet Holmes story was I wanted to redefine the three options on my terms, right? And I first started out by, explaining to them, right, which was okay, but it wasn't the ultimate, right? I'd say, hey, there are three ways. Here's one, here's two, here's three, here's how they do. But I kind of took a little pivot and I said, Beth, I've done some research in your local market here, Champions Gate, and there are three distinct strategies sellers have been using. And I've done the research to show how they perform. Would you be interested in having three options? And would you be interested in seeing how those options perform for the sellers? Now, is that an offensive question to anybody?
Nope. Yeah.
Right? So when I do the 3 options, I don't ask what price you have in mind. And I also, here's a spoiler alert, okay? When you get a seller that comes in and it's like this, Beth, I'm not selling my house for less than 750,000, and that house is worth 600. I want to ask some of our most successful people I see on here, how do you answer that question? Right? You go out there and they're puffing. I'm not selling my house for less than 750. How does that make you feel? Anybody? I'm gonna put Dan Gagnon. I'm gonna put you on the line on the hook there. How does it make you feel when somebody says, I don't need to sell. I'm not selling it for less than 750, and it's worth 600. Okay, role play starts right now.
Mr. and Mrs. Seller, so tell me, how did you arrive at that number?
It doesn't matter. I just need it.
Are you aware of what the market is doing in your neighborhood?
I don't care. I thought you were Dan. I thought you were good.
I think you can expect your home to sit on the market for over 6 months and longer at that price point. Are you prepared to do that?
I'm not going to work with you if that's the case. No. So Dan, thank you for being a victim. But can I just share with you, you took the seller's bait, right? You bit the hook. So what I found, and I found this just because I've been on these appointments with your peers, okay? And my answer is, Dan, let's just role play this. So, Dan, great to see you. Can you tell me what's your motivation for selling, where you moving, and then you throw out I need to get X. So Dan, so tell me what's your motivation for moving?
I just want to see how much I can get from my home to live somewhere else that I feel would be more appealing to me. But I'm in no rush to sell.
You're in no rush to sell. Okay. And you're supposed to say, I'm not going to sell unless I get 750. Okay, so when they say I'm not going to sell unless I can get my number or unless I get 750, put your hand up if you've had those clients, right? I think everybody's been there, right? So here's the response that works perfect. Okay. And I'm gonna practice what I'm asking you to preach. Please get a pen out and write this down. When they say that, I go back and I say, Dan, I hear what you're saying, and it sounds like it's extremely important to make sure you maximize the value of your house and don't leave any money on the table. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, have I agreed to that price when I say that?
No.
No. Right? Am I poking the bear? No. Right? And then I would say many of my successful clients have appreciated having the opportunity to preview 3 strategies before they sell their house. Would you be interested in hearing 3 different unique strategies, or do you just want one?
I'll listen to what you have to say, but I still want to list for 750.
I got you, but I understand. So you said it twice. So basically, then you don't want to leave a penny on the table. You don't want to leave a nickel, a penny, anything on the table. You want to get full value, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, I'm going to share with you how some of your neighbors have launched their home and how they fared with these different strategies. Okay. So that's the way that you would introduce it and say, look, there are 3 unique strategies. One of them is, and then this doesn't mean it's what it's going to sell for, but if you were to hire an appraiser or you had 100 real estate agents, 98 of them would come in within a couple percentage points of 600,000 as the market value of your home. Again, it's not what it's going to sell for. The second strategy that you can use is you can, price it aspirationally. Ask for a significantly higher number with the intention of negotiating the price down. I call that aspirational or lottery pricing. And the third option is to price it event style or auction style, where we'd like to build up some demand and find that we get multiple offers. So that is called auction style. I'm going to share with you how your neighbors have fared by introducing their home that way as well. And then when you show them the information, okay, and you're like, hey, price per square foot, total price, ultimate sales price, all the numbers, are going to favor selling it quickly. It's not possible that, has anybody seen homes that increase in value by building up days on market? Right?
No.
And,
Negative.
how do you communicate that to a seller who has a tendency to be emotionally connected to a value?
I-
Go ahead, Lynn Freeman, you have a,
Yeah, I have an idea. We've gone over this before, and I'm getting ready to present this to a client of mine. Kind of run the last, like the recent sales for the last, like say, 200 days, 200 or 300 days, 6 months, and see how long it took to sell them. To kind of divide them up between the list price and sell price and days on market, and come up with a chart, and then do an average. If you sell it at the the market value or the auction price, how much they could be leaving at the table if they wait, and actually show that amount, what they could be losing if they do it with an aspirational price. So I was going to run this one by you. I have a big condo I'm going to try to be putting on the market.
okay. And I have a quote that I'd like everybody to write down, which I think if you can say this without thinking about it, it will be beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Pricing a home is a strategic exercise, and we have a few different strategies we can deploy on the route to maximizing your equity. What do you think of that?
A lot to say.
Could you say
I
that
have to
again?
practice this.
No, all right. So Lynn, everybody put your pens down, just listen to it
Okay.
before you think, and then I'm going to repeat it slowly.
Okay.
Pricing a home is a strategic exercise, and we have a few different strategies we can deploy on the route to maximizing your equity. What do you like? If you just listen to that and take it in, who likes that? All right, I see some big thumbs up, right? And some, okay. So now we're going to write it down because it really it resonates and it has integrity, right? And it builds rapport. So pricing a home is a strategic exercise, and we have a few different strategies we can deploy on the route to maximizing your equity. Pricing a home is a strategic exercise, and we have a few different strategies we can deploy on the route to maximizing your equity. I mean, if that doesn't say it all, right? And that sets up the three different choices. Okay. And here's another memory, write it down 10 times phrase. The market dynamics are simply a relationship between actives, pendings, and solds. And I find that many agents and professionals focus too much on the historical solds. I'll repeat that.
I agree.
The market dynamics are simply a relationship between actives, pendings, and solds. And I find that many professionals focus too much on the historical solds and not the market dynamics. Does anybody like that?
Love it.
Okay, and Lynn, do you believe that 100%?
I do.
Right.
No, that's how I price properties. Absolutely. It's just getting that across to people to and using and I like your approach with asking the questions and just hitting and showing and not showing them, have them answer the questions. Okay, have rather than just presenting it to them and keeping the rapport going. I like that approach.
Okay. There's another concept in building rapport and trust. Okay, and this is gonna be like the episode with the most notes. Okay, I'm having so much fun here. I want to disassociate a homeowner's belief that list price is correlated to sales price linearly. I want to disassociate a homeowner's belief that list price is linearly correlated to sale price. And I believe that sellers believe I ask a higher price, I have more room to negotiate, I will land at a higher net price. If you believe that some of your sellers have that mindset, raise your hand.
Oh,
Right? So this exercise is gonna break that association, okay? And you can say pricing is about positioning, and the list price is just an invitation for activity. Okay, pricing is just about positioning, and the list price is just an invitation for activity. Okay, does that make sense? Right? Price is part of marketing. Marketing is not part of price. I think sellers get that backwards, right? They think that if you do, better marketing, it's going to make the price higher, and I don't believe that. Okay, pricing is part of the marketing. Marketing is not part of the price. Um, so back to you, Lynn, with
Can you
your
repeat that for a second, please?
pricing.
Pricing is just about positioning.
Okay. Yeah. Pricing is just about positioning, and the list price is just an invitation, or it's just an invitation for activity. Okay. And after you have that conversation or that phrase, you might want to ask a seller to write down the 10-10-0 rule, right? And how do you introduce the 10-10-0 rule so that it benefits the seller? Anybody?
they have to write it.
So, but role play with me, Beth, on how we do that.
Um,
I'm gonna give you a pass, okay? So here's
yeah,
what you do.
just get me started here. Just get me
No.
started. Give me a cue word.
So Beth, in order to maximize the equity in your home, we use the 10-10-0 rule at Remax Select.
Okay.
Okay, and the 10-10-0 rule is a rule designed to prevent homes from building up days on market and giving buyers the advantage. Do you have a pen? Do you have a pen, Beth? I'd like you to write this down, and that's where you have them write it down.
Okay, but so in the flow of things, you show them the three strategies first,
So
and then show them the 10-10-0 rule, or do you don't think it matters?
So I find that I don't have this is the step one, because sometimes Beth, the seller doesn't get their notes, right? They don't follow
Right.
along, right? So the conversation just kind of flows naturally. But when it's appropriate, you'd want to say, hey Beth, after we decide price, I just want you to understand the 10-10 rule that we have. And they'll say, well, what is that? And I'll say, Beth, that's a rule designed to preserve the hard-earned equity you have in your home. Would you like to jot down what that is? Everybody's going to say yes. And then you say, if the house has been on the market 10 days with no showings, that means that we have an issue. And the industry has determined that that's probably a 5 to 7% mispricing compared to the competition. And Beth, that can result from we got the pricing correct, but 3 other homes came on the market the day after we listed it, right? Isn't that a reasonable possibility, right?
Yes.
You nail the price, and then by the time you launch, there's 2 other homes that came on for less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, happens all the time.
And then the second 10 is if we're getting activity, but no offers. So 10 showings, no offers. We have a different problem, Beth. Generally, it's a little bit less severe problem, but we find that it's about a 3 to 5% adjustment in price that will get us back into competition and maximize your equity.
I also like how we're phrasing it from contribution, why it's to their benefit. It's, you know what I mean? It's not
so-
like I need to sell your house because I'm not out here to list your house. I'm out here to sell your house, that line, which I don't say that, but we're saying, here's how we're going to maximize your equity. Here's why it's to your benefit.
And Beth, is it possible that people can feel things you don't say?
Yes.
No, right. But that's what I want to say. Like, people can feel that you're just here to make your job. Like, I think sellers believe when we approach the price that we're looking to make our job easier by getting the price lower. I think that's
Yeah.
a fundamental belief. Ivy, did you have something to share?
Okay, I have a question regarding our area. Houses are on the market 45 to 55 days before they go under contract. That's an average. So if knowing that and a seller knows that, how do you overcome that objection?
So Ivy, the way I overcome it is with data, right? And it's so easy. I see there's probably 4 or 5 of you on the front page here that I've done analysis for, and you can show them neighboring properties in the past 6 months and how they perform based upon days on market and different pricing strategies. Okay, and it's like gravity, Ivy. If you overprice, you become stale, and you have to do price reductions, and then you sell for less. So, in the case, especially if you're new to introduce this concept, right? When you first introduce it, you're probably not going to be the best version of yourself. Would you agree? Right? So if you introduce it the first time and you have sales resistance because they still feel like Ivy's just looking to make her job easy. Okay, what you need to do then is you need to take the data and ask some questions, right? So I forget who. Dan Gagnon. So the seller keeps going back and saying, "I need to get 750," right? I would then recirculate and say, "So Dan, if we put it on at 750, and I love to do it this way. I'm like, Dan, if you list the property with me or whomever you feel has the best marketing plan to sell your house, because I don't want it to be about me, right? If you list it with the agent with the best possible marketing for 750, and it doesn't sell, how promptly are you going to reposition the price?" Now, is that a fair question for a seller? And what it does is it takes away their ability to say, well, I mean, if you list it for me and it doesn't sell in 30 days, or when are you going to reposition it? They're going to say, I'm not. I thought you were a really good marketer, right? And they're making it about you, but I'm not making it about me. I'm humble and saying, hey, if you list it with the best possible agent and you put it on at 750, how long are you going to wait before you adjust the price? And then you can talk about the 10-10-0 rule. But that doesn't make it about me. And when I share with Howard Leon the value of his house, I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm saying this is how the industry evaluates property. And Howard, if we were to work to get, if you were to launch your property and you had, 50 agents out, 48 of them would come in within a couple $1,000s of this number. The good news is that doesn't mean it's what your house is going to sell for, right? And then you get this relief, and you're just you're running the playbook every single time. And has anybody here sold more than 50 houses in their career? Right, most of you. So if we've sold 50 or more houses, don't you think we should be running the show? Right? And don't you think it's important, like, if we run the show, we can let them feel like they're running it, but it's our show, right? Because we know how people are going to behave. When I say, 49 out of 50 agents would come within a couple of percentage points of this value if they're being honest and using the practice standards. Your sellers are going to be the same. Like 49 of them are going to behave the same way. Okay. And it's about how we engage these behaviors, right? Do we if you ever come into the office, right, and you find somebody that's always like, oh, all my sellers are unreasonable, I can't get an offer accepted, right? What you need to do is go to a different room because that's contagious, right? They're bringing it on themselves. It's not possible that they can attract all the negative, bad clients, right? There's accountability on us, right? And the the topic is the psychology of rapport in real estate, the realtor's trust advantage, right? And it's not we're exploiting trust, but we're establishing trust to get sellers to take the right action. And by the way, this also works with buyers, right? And this is a whole nother, um, strategy of how to communicate. But is this, if you've sold 50 houses or more, is this different or significantly different from what you've been doing your last 50 sales? Anybody?
Mhm.
You
Because
just lead the dance. You walk in and you control the room, and they want, I guess it all depends for a lot of agents, how they come, to that client. But if their business is referred, like most of my business is referred to me, when I walk in there, I know they already have an idea that they want to work with me. But as long as I go in there, I know my numbers, I'm confident, they're ready to sign. I think there's a lot of people that they bring themselves out of the deal. They overtalk, and that's when I see they spend too much time, and then they give too many choices. So
Rob,
confidence is huge.
go ahead.
Rob, I was going to say also that if and when we're lucky enough to have both sides of the deal, if I always tell the sellers, remember when we go and look at a property for you to purchase, we're going to also be looking at days on the market, and we are also going to be looking if it's a fair price. So when you turn the table a little and explain to them that, when we see a home that's been on the market for 200 days, we're not going to offer a full offer. So it's a catch-22. So turn the table a little and they go like, oh yeah, you're right. I wouldn't that, if I'm going to lowball somebody because it's 200 days on the market, I need to make sure I'm priced right from day one so nobody lowballs me.
Right. So here's a gift for you and for Dan, and it's about how to share that sentiment. And here's the way that you share that sentiment. Right. You have the person that's like, I'm not going to give my house away. Right. It's the stubborn seller, and everybody has a moment where they would reduce the price. Right. I would say, Alina, if we reduce the price and the perfect buyer comes along, so we've been on for 21 days, 45 days, whatever they say, we just cut the price by 7%, 3%. Somebody comes and they see your beautiful house, they're interested, they go home and they talk about it with their spouse. Tell me, what does that conversation sound like when they go home and talk about it?
Oh, do you want me to tell you the conversation sounds like?
So imagine yourself as a seller, right? I say,
right.
Alina, they have interest in your house. They see it's been on the market for 44 days and we cut the price to 50,000. They go home and discuss it. Tell me, what is that going to sound like when they go home?
I mean, it depends on the urgency, right?
Hello.
And pretend the role play is the seller.
That's a seller, right? So I go back and talk to my husband and say, hey, we're getting an offer that's $50,000 less than we thought.
I guess I missed. So,
Yeah.
so I'm asking the seller. So when the prospective buyer who's interested in your home sees it's been on the market for 46 days and took a $50,000 price reduction, they go home, put their head on the pillow, and they have a conversation. What does that conversation sound like? And every seller, I'll tell you because many of you have been on these appointments with me. They're like, oh, well, they're probably going to lowball it because they see we just cut the price and it's been on the market for 46 days. And when the seller says that to you, that's where you have connection. You've built tremendous rapport, right? Because they're now telling you that that's a failed strategy, right? And has anybody asked that question? Had a seller saying, and Gary, when you go home and talk about it, like they're going to say, "Oh, we cut the price. I'm probably going to make an offer over ask." There's no seller that's going to have that concept. They're going to say the market's rejected it. I'm going to try to see how I can take advantage of the situation of them being desperate, right?
Mhm.
And would you like to have two chances, Alina, to win that conversation?
Try me.
Two is always better than one, right? So
Sure.
then, if that doesn't go like you want, say, hey, Alina, would we go out and look at our properties, right? If we see a property has been on the market for 46 days and cut the price 50,000, how are you and Dan going to talk about making an offer?
As a buyer?
Yeah, so I say, so Alina,
Yeah.
you're the buyer.
Yeah.
If once we sell your house, when we're looking at homes, we see one that's been on the market for 46 days and just cut the price 50,000. You go home and talk with Dan. How are you gonna have that conversation about formulating an offer?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, hey, Dan, I think we need to go lower. They're desperate and they really have been on the market for too long. And I'm not gonna ask him, I'm gonna give them what they're asking because clearly they're willing to go lower. So
This is called using their own momentum against them, right? Because when they're a buyer, they're like stomping on your throat and going for blood. When they're a seller, they're unreasonable, right? They're emotionally connected.
Mhm.
So there's the second way of doing it. So if you ask them, somebody sees it, how are they going to formulate the offer? Sometimes the seller can't connect the dots there, but if you ask them when they go and see a property for their next home, they're going to be like, oh yeah, we think they're desperate. We're going to try to get a good deal. You know, we see that they've
What's
lowered the
happening?
price.
How are you? It's nice.
Okay. Hang on.
Crazy.
Does anybody have anything that you want to share that you do on listing or buyer's appointments to build tremendous rapport? Anybody? And Lynn Freeman, like when we were just talking here, I want to just
Yeah.
compliment you. Like your confidence in the way that you were describing the conversation was quite impressive, right? You're not talking too
you.
quickly. No, but you're not talking too quickly. You don't sound like a salesperson, right? And sounding like a salesperson is not a compliment, right? You're sounding like, hey, we're having a conversation. Like, I want to make sure, Lynn, if we decide to work together, that our partnership maximizes your equity, right? Because it really is a partnership, right?
Mhm.
Because you only get paid if it sells.
Absolutely.
And when I look at you and the way that you're having that conversation with me, Lynn, I feel like you're not in this game for a commission. You're in the game for exceeding my expectation and having me go out of my way to refer my colleague and my neighbor. Because isn't that what you really want,
Absolutely.
right? And you know, to get if you get a review of 4 out of 5 on Zillow, are you happy about that?
No, I'm not. I want a 5.
We want
I
a
want a
6.
5 out of 5.
We want a
Yeah,
6.
they don't.
And what we do as an industry is we feel like we do a good job and that's good enough, right? But it's really not. Like, what is a good job? Is it selling the house at a good price, or is it delivering the experience and the communication, letting them understand the process, right? Because if you just tell them this is what you need to do, but they don't understand the process, you're going to have somebody that might come to you and say, "Hey, Lynn, Sigrid and I were really a little bit nervous because we got all these offers up front. We're fearful we might have underpriced it." Right? Is that possible? A seller can say that,
Yes.
and that's only possible if they're not educated, right? If you
Mhm.
educate them and you set the stage, they understand this is how it was designed, right? To have competition. And if you ask them up front, hey, if we sold your house within the first 7 days with multiple offers, would that be, how would you feel about that? Right? And if they say, oh, we might feel we underpriced it, I'm like, well, let me kind of share with you how the market works in Boca Raton, where your home is. And then you share that with them and then you connect the dots. So it's possible that you can do an excellent job, okay? And they think you just did a good job, right? and they're not going out of their way to refer you. And spoiler alert, telling them that you did an excellent job is only going to diminish the work, right? Oh, I did a great job. Lynn, you had no idea, like the buyer tried to get this and the appraisal came in low. I did all these things. Do you think the seller's gonna, hold you in higher esteem when you tell them about all the things that you did? Or do you think they're gonna hold you in higher esteem if you just make the process flawless? What do you think?
I think it's kind of sometimes I've been told, like, well, by my attorney, they don't necessarily they want the mail served to them. They don't necessarily want to know how you got to the conclusion and how you prepared the meal, just as long as things were smooth for them, okay? And they didn't have to know all the details. Occasionally you have to let them know, listen, we're having an issue with the appraisal, or we could have an issue with the appraisal, but this is how I'm going to prevent this from happening. I'm getting all the details up front about the upgrades that you have in your home. I'm very familiar with the other properties in the neighborhood and the location, the size, the upgrades that they have, the lot location, and how that plays. And I will be presenting that to the appraiser so we will not have an issue. Sometimes I'll bring that up. So I educate them on the process so it seems smooth to them. And then when when I win, which I normally do on the appraisals, they're happy about it. It's just kind of preparing them and educating them along the way. Because that's my role, is to educate my clients.
And some of your peers in the industry, what they do is they make it into a big bonfire and say, "Oh, I'm going to put on my fire gear and try to put it out," right? And
No.
to me as a consumer, I'm like, I thought you did this a lot. Like, why do I have to be involved with this problem? Can't you just solve it? Right?
This is my issue.
Right. This is what you hired me to do, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, and the knowledge, Lynn, is not enough. It's the communication strategy, right? Because
Absolutely.
93% of communication is nonverbal, right? So if you screw up the verbal part, then you're really in trouble. But you need to be able to deliver it with integrity, right? You need to be able to deliver it where it strengthens a relationship, right? You don't want to antagonize your client. That price is ridiculous, Lynn. You're never going to get that. Like some of our peers, that's they might not say it, but you feel it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You feel that the dis-ease that a professional has at addressing that. And this is the definition of insanity, when you're completely surprised that all the sellers want to overprice their houses. Because they all do. It's the fear mechanism, right? Gary Greenacre, I don't want to leave any money on the table, so maybe I ask for 150,000 more. How does that sound?
Well, it doesn't sound good if you really want to sell, but let's talk about the pricing again.
And you might want to even just say, hey, Gary, would it be helpful if I shared with you how other sellers in the Valley fared by using these 3 different strategies? Now, I hope you feel like I don't seem like I'm pushing you to one decision or another, right? I'm just like, look, let's take a look at how other peers in the Valley have performed by using these 3 strategies. And then we can decide together how we can maximize your equity, and partner together in the sale of your house.
Yeah.
Okay. And Dan, Mr. Dan Gagnon, Mr. Analytical guy, you have to soften up and you have to learn how to, ask better questions, right? You have all the information behind you. There's nobody going to pull out stats better than you, but it doesn't matter if you don't ask the questions correctly, right? Because you'll elicit what you're trying to extinguish if you don't have the right process, right? Let's see here. Okay. Here's something that's not real estate related, which I thought was a worthwhile quote. Rapport isn't just friendliness. Rapport isn't just friendliness. We often mistake like a good conversation or friendliness for being rapport. In my opinion, rapport is communication that builds trust. Rapport is communication that builds trust. Don't mistake friendliness. And what I mean by this is, I've seen early on in my career, and I've seen somebody go out on a listing appointment or work with a buyer, and we have commonalities, right? And we might talk about, oh, I have a purebred golden doodle just like yours, and you spend 10 minutes like that thinking you're building rapport, right? That's friendliness. Lynn Freeman, if we both have golden doodles, does that make me feel like you're a better professional to sell my house?
No, but at least it starts building, like you said, building rapport, and you're finding something in common, and you can start with that subject before you bring up maybe something that's a little bit more uncomfortable. You know what I mean? You just start, but you know, you're not going right into business. You can talk about the dogs or talk about whatever else you may have in common, and keep that in mind when you start your conversations. Because I communicate with my clients on a very regular basis. I don't let too much time go by.
So you said before you talk about something uncomfortable,
Mhm.
okay? And what I'm going to say is, even thinking it's uncomfortable
Yeah.
puts out the uncomfortable vibe, right?
Okay.
And I like to, give you analogies outside of the industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to the best surgeon or medical professional in the industry, do you want them to like sugarcoat it and dance around, or you want them to be honest with you and then come up with a plan to resolve whatever issue you may have?
I want it straight up. Just give it to me.
So when we say that this conversation might be uncomfortable, I mean, they might not want to
Well, I
hear
wouldn't
it.
say that. I
Well,
wouldn't
no,
say
no,
that. That just, yeah.
but I'm pushing back on you because when you say it, you have an uncomfortable conversation, right?
Mhm.
You're not going to say it, but you feel it, right? And
Okay,
people
that
sense
vibe
what you
shift.
feel, right?
Okay.
And if we all put our hand up and do an oath, like, I'm not going to lie to a seller to get a listing ever. I'm going to get all my listings because I deserve it, and I'm going to deliver 10% service for a 2.5 or a 3.5% fee. Like, that's my belief, right? And I'm not going to tell them what a great job I did. They're going to feel it, right? Like, I don't want the doctor telling me like, oh, well, when I went in there to remove your appendix, we had, yeah, I don't want to know that. I just want to know that it was successful, right? Somebody said they don't want to know how how the food is made. They just want to know that it tastes good and it's wholesome. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, if look into my soul, I have no uncomfortable conversations. Beth, are you still here? Maybe she dropped off or she's incognito, but we're talking to an agent and they're saying like, I have a couple of listings from investors that bought a year ago and now the market's down, so I really feel bad about it. Now, if you feel bad about it, are you going to give them the best advice? Right? And she did tell them that now's not a good time to sell, but they didn't want to have to deal with like the inconsistency of the rentals, right? Because some months they make a lot of money and some months they have to put money in. So that was stressing them out. So feeling bad about that implies that you had something to do with it. Like when she sold them that property, that was the then value of that home. Now the then value of that home has changed. I am not unemotional. I am not uncaring, but it's not my fault. And I just want to give you the information to get the best possible outcome with what's going on now. So I don't see that as an uncomfortable conversation, right? It may not be fun news to share, right? Everybody wants to go and say, "Hey, Lynn, your house is worth 400,000 more than when you bought it in 2021." That's a fun conversation, but everybody can do that. It's the true professionals that can have the conversation when values have pivoted and shifted, right? We're going to give them the process to get the best possible outcome. I didn't do it. I didn't cause the values to drop in Florida. But I want to, now may not be the best time to sell. And she said that to him, and I applauded her for that. But I'm not going to feel like it's uncomfortable from that point on. I want to maximize the value, and I'm gonna run the playbook the same way every time. So look into my soul. There's no discomfort. I didn't cause the value to go up. I didn't cause it to go down. If we partner together, there may be some things we can do to maximize the value, right? Staging, minor repairs, things of that nature. But I'm looking at you and I'm telling you, I can help you. We're going to partner together. We're not leaving any money on the table. I'm going to show you the strategy. You know, when we partner together, you make the decision because you're the majority partner, but I want to maximize your equity. And I'm not going to say that, you know, my goal is to, you know, exceed your expectation, but you're going to feel that, right? And at the end of it, you're going to be like, that was an experience that was not like any other experience dealing with a broker I ever had. There's a lot of smart brokers out there, but um, it's a rare find to have somebody who knows their information cold, has studied the communication, like how to say it, okay, and masters the communication of building rapport and trust, right? Like that's very, very rare, but it's where you want to be, right? Because Lynn, what's the average commission in your market?
Average commission for total or just for the listing agent? Or for me?
For you as a listing agent.
Right now, I'm going for 3%, and then I offer like at least 2.5% for the buy side.
Right, but what's the dollar amount of that commission on average for you?
Oh my, probably about 20,000, anywhere from 15 to 20,000,
Okay, so you have
maybe
these
more.
so you have these $15,000 to $20,000 opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can take some of your 20,000, you can take 25% of it and invest it in marketing, or you can invest all your time to deliver a unparalleled experience where people are going to want to go out of the way to refer you. And I know we all have some of those clients that are predisposed or they had such a great experience that they're telling the entire world about what you did. But why can't every client be like that? Right? You know, do a few extra things to make that process better, to over communicate, right? To give them a seamless experience so that you the obvious choice for going out of your way to refer. Because if you've had a great experience with something, if you've been to a great restaurant, isn't it fun to tell somebody about that experience? Right?
Absolutely.
And I want people to say, you know, working with Lynn Freeman is freaking amazing. Like, if you know anybody in Florida or anywhere, you ought to talk to her first because she can even guide you if they want to buy in, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we
Absolutely.
want. That's what we want to portray, right? We don't want to just make the commission and say, you know, 5-star. I want 6 stars, and I want you to say that this was not like any other experience I've had before, right? And it's not because I am, you know, just telling you how great I am. You feel it, right? You know, it's like you get out of the surgery and you feel 100%. You don't want the doctor telling you everything, like all the different strategies they did to do that. And we don't want our clients to, you know, have to, you know, hear the horror stories of what we did to make this seem seamless. So, rapport isn't just friendliness, it's a strategic emotional alignment that activates trust, lowers resistance, and accelerates decision making. That's a lot, isn't it? Rapport isn't just friendliness. We often confuse that, right? That's the I have a golden doodle, you have a golden doodle. We talk about that too much. We lose sight of what's really important. Rapport isn't just friendliness; it's a strategic emotional alignment. Strategic emotional alignment that activates trust. Right? Trust is good, lowers resistance, and accelerates decision making. Now, is there anybody that doesn't want any of those three things? Anybody that doesn't want to uh, activate trust, lower resistance, and accelerate decision making? Those are all incredibly positive things for both us and our clients, right? And that's all done by rapport. It's not done by, Dan, it's not done by a spreadsheet, brother. It's done by rapport. And it's done by when they give you the I'm in no hurry, right? If they sense that you're hesitating or you're blinking, you've already lost. you're already lost if you blink, right? So if I say, Dan, I'm not giving my house away, I'm putting you on the spot. What are you telling me?
You're the seller?
I'm the seller. And Dan, if I can't get $750 for my house, I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to give it away.
So I believe there's an important factor we haven't talked about, Rob, and that's the condition of the home. Down here, where we have some custom home neighborhoods, you've got homes that are remodeled to the nines versus none that have not been remodeled. So in some cases, that price point is justified.
So Dan, I love you, man. You're too logical. Okay, the answer would be
Practical.
No, the answer would be Dan. It sounds like maximizing the value and the sale price of your home is extremely important, and you don't want to leave a dollar on the table. Am I accurate?
Right.
And would it be helpful if I shared with you a few unique strategies to deploy to maximize the equity of your home?
Sure.
Now, does anybody, and I can't be offended. So if you like Dan's logical answer better, tell me. If you like the approach that I took, I just want you to share. And Dan, I want to impact you. I want to double your business. So it's not about critique.
Mhm.
Does anybody feel strongly one way or the other?
Yeah, I think we need to give them options, maybe a little less wordy. That's my opinion. But yeah, definitely give them options of how they can go to market. And I
Yeah.
do appreciate your call out on not always focusing on the solds. That is a combination of pending and actives, because a lot of people could be in a good position to sell just because nothing's in the market at that time in their community like that. And I have gone through that in our last situation. So I think the more we show them that there's different ways to look at pricing, that it's not just comps, or it's not just what the neighbor said or what you heard on Zillow.
So Alina, when somebody's emotional and I'm trying to provide a logical reply, do you think that's going to work most of the time? Probably not.
No, if they're emotional, you need to follow that mood, I guess.
Right. And my principle is like, I'm not gonna buy your house, Alina, and I'm not gonna lie to you about it. I'm gonna say, you know what? It sounds like, maximizing the equity in your home and sale price of your home is extremely important. And the person that says they want to sell it for more, isn't that what they're really signaling us, right? Because that they're fearful that they might underprice and get less than it's worth. Isn't that really why they say they want 750?
Yeah, because I think they can negotiate down instead of up.
Right, but they're saying that they want 750 because they think that's the best strategy to get the most, correct?
Yeah, because I don't know they don't have the other options that we would offer to them.
So when I get agreement by saying, Alina, it sounds like, it's extremely important to make sure you maximize the equity in your home and you don't leave any money on the table. Is that correct?
Correct. Let me
So
show
now
you
I think-
some of ways that.
So now I've taken an objection and I've turned it into a consensus, right? I built rapport from an objection. And then I say, look, Alina, if we decided that we were a good fit, would it be helpful for me to share with you 3 distinct options to launch your home onto the market? Everybody always says yes. And then would it be more helpful if I shared with you how your neighbors fared by deploying those 3 strategies? Yes.
Say yes.
Everybody says yes. So that in a nutshell is what rapport is. I hope you left with some good notes. I hope I didn't offend anybody, but I want to give you the true north on how to address sellers that are really, or clients in particular, that are just puffing. It's not what they mean, but they're fearful, so they feel like puffing is going to get them a better outcome. But if we get surprised and we go back to the office and say, oh, that seller was unreasonable, you need to take the mirror out and say, I need to improve my skills. Okay? If you're saying sellers are unreasonable, get a mirror and fix yourself. Don't blame the client. Have a wonderfully productive weekend. I hope you all got a nugget or 2 from today. Bye, everybody.
Happy
Thank you.
Halloween.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank
Happy
you.
Halloween.